What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets here live on our FTN Network YouTube page, also on iTunes and Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast. We'll put this one into that grouping. Chris Meaney here with you. Hopefully everybody having a fantastic Thursday. We have some football to talk about. Yes, I am in Philly green as they have their home opener tonight against the Minnesota Vikings. We've seen some line movement from 7.5 to 6.5 in some spots. Seth in the house. Hey, Meaney, I'm hopping in the car to head to Lincoln Financial Field. Oh, baby, in a few minutes for some tailgating before the game. Go Birds. Love it. I've been to a couple Eagles games, and I'll tell you what, the tailgate is fantastic. Diehard MMA podcast. It's been a minute. NHL around the corner, baby. Can't wait for the return of Dangle Bet Sally. All my rankings, fantasy hockey stuff. I've been working a lot on that this week and over the past week or so. We'll be live over at FTN Fantasy very soon, and it will all be free for you guys. Rankings, high stakes, best ball. We're going to do a couple underdog drafts. I've done a couple already. We'll talk some strategy. So for the NHL people, no hockey stuff on this show today, but if you are looking for sleepers, breakouts, busts, strategy pieces, we're going to have you covered over at ftnfantasy.com, ftnbets.com with a betting guide, betting preview, some futures already in the FTN betting tracker, FTN bet tracker, NHL-wise anyways. And Dangle Bet Sally will return very, very soon, maybe next week, maybe as early as the end of next week, probably in 2 weeks. NHL opens up in October. Camp's opening up here immediately. So we'll get you guys set for the hockey season. But today's some football stuff, right? We will preview tonight's football game, of course, Thursday night football. We got some props and some picks. We had a decent Monday night. Man, I haven't really talked to you guys since Aaron Rodgers went down. It's just I still can't get over it. It kind of makes me sick. Just what happened with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not even the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, but I certainly just don't like to see that. But Monday was okay in terms of props. I thought we finished the week strong. Anyways, sides 4-0. Hopefully we can pick up some steam here on the prop side of things. The NFL betting show recorded yesterday with myself, Abby Labar, and Mike Randall. That is free to check out on our FTN Network YouTube page. Tomorrow, I will have some picks against the spread, money line plays, some props, some touchdown stuff. Today will be tonight's game, picks and props. I want to show you guys our FTN projections for the week and just tell you where I'm a little different, kind of share my rankings. Going to dive into running backs. We're going to dive into quarterbacks, tight ends. We'll show you all. George made some great graphics for us. I got some start and sits, players that I feel we should just go back to. Others we have to wait and see. Going to take a look at the most drop players as well, something we did last year. And if you've been following along over the past couple of years, there's usually 2 or 3 names on the list of the most drop players that pop up for the most added the following week. I just want to preach patience. Week 1, it's panic mode. It's just too early to be cutting people that you drafted in the 8th round. Like if you really liked Sky Moore and you drafted him in the 8th round, if you're in a 10-team league, fine, whatever. You can cut him, you can move on from him. I would, in a 10-team league, I would move on from him for Puka Nacua, right? Your waivers have already run. But Sky Moore is one of the most drop players. And if you're in a 12-team league and you drafted him in the 8th because you felt like there was going to be a breakout campaign from him and you're already willing to cut ties immediately, if I saw him on the waiver, I'd pick him up. I'm not saying to start him this week. I'm not saying to start Kadarius Toney, but these are guys that shouldn't be on the waiver wire, especially Sky Moore, who led the Chiefs in snaps, a couple missed throws from Patrick Mahomes in that football game. We'll get into players like that, but week 1, there's always overreaction. For example, Rashad Penny is the most dropped running back. Rashad Penny may be the guy tonight. No Kenneth Gainwell. I think that Rashad Penny, now this is me just speculating. It's not beat reporters. It's just, I've always been Team Gainwell. From a fantasy standpoint, it was easy to say because he was the cheapest of the 3. But Penny's never had a full season in his career. DeAndre Swift has never had a full season in his career. I don't view Swift as a 10 carry per game type of back. They will use him more. Don't get me wrong. Like, they didn't use him in week 1, a carry or 2, a target or 2. It was Kenneth Gainwell. I was not shocked to see that. Yeah, they spent some capital on DeAndre Swift, the 5th and the 7th. Didn't cost him a whole lot. He's on the final year of his deal. Penny, same sort of deal. Final year of his deal. Healthy scratch. I think that Penny tonight will take the Kenneth Gainwell role that he had last week against the Patriots. first and second down opportunities mixed in with a little bit more DeAndre Swift on the ground. But Swift is a guy that they're going to line up all over the field. He's going to catch some passes. But what we know about Jalen Hurts, kind of a small sample size in roughly 3 years, check down to running backs. He's tucking it. He's running. He's getting that first yardage himself. Nick Sirianni said after the game, can't have a game where Swift is only touching the ball a couple times. Can't have a game where Dallas Goedert's leaving with zero catches. I would expect Goddard to be used in this game inside the red zone. Last year, week 1, when the Eagles played Detroit, it was all Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Miles Sanders. It was nothing from Devontae Smith. After that week 1 game, Nick Sirianni said, can't have a game where Devontae Smith is having a donut. And Devontae Smith popped off in that week 2 game at home, just so happened to be against Minnesota. Same deal. Week 2, home opener against Minnesota. We have a little bit of a sample of how that game went. We can talk about it. I don't want to dive into it too much, but there's some takeaways that I have from it that I think could help us tonight with some props and with some picks. But be careful. Just assuming that it's going to be all DeAndre Swift today, that DeAndre Swift is going to get the 14 carries, he's going to have a couple catches here and there. I really do feel, I could be wrong. I'm not saying to start Penny. I don't even think I would start DeAndre Swift, but I would not be shocked tonight if Penny was that first and second down back, potential goal line touches for him in place of Kenneth Gainwell. A lot of comments here. A lot of comments. I want to get to a lot of these questions for sure. I wanted to, I will get to any start and sit questions that you guys have and anything here. I want to continue just with this game tonight with some picks and some props for the game. We'll dive into your questions, show off those projections, start and sit, all that stuff here for you guys. But tonight, let's get after it. Eagles are at home opener. Seth's going to have a time. Oh my goodness. The parking lot, it's a great setup in Philly, right? You got Wells Fargo there, Citizens Bank across the street. I haven't been to the 2 Eagles games that I went were prime time, so like tailgate all morning, all day, and into tonight, just like I'm sure what tonight will be like for you guys. But the link should be rocking. It's a tough environment to play. As I mentioned, we had this game last year, week 2, Philadelphia's home opener against the Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles spanked with 24-7. We really saw Kirk Cousins struggle. He threw the ball 46 times, only completed 27 of those passes for 221 yards. He did have a touchdown. He had 3 picks. No Bradbury in this game, which is concerning. Justin Jefferson was really covered, and Darius Slay did a great job. There was a couple picks towards Justin Jefferson that Slay had. Jefferson finished with 6 grabs, 48 yards. Adam Thielen, 4 grabs, 52 yards. Irv Smith, remember that name? Just really remember the position. Irv Smith had 5 grabs, 36 yards, and a touchdown. We had 4 catches from Dalvin Cook, 3 catches from Alexander Mattison. You see the numbers here. The spread, 6. It was 7.5. Vikings lost their first game at home thanks to a couple turnovers. Credit to Tampa Bay and the defense and Baker getting it done in the second half, but Minnesota really gave that game away in the second half with multiple turnovers. They check it at plus 220 on the money line using the prop shop and parlay calculator for the best numbers here. Minus 258 for the Birds and 49 is the total. I think it's slightly high. Last week was not great for Philadelphia in terms of their offense. It was the first time ever with Jalen Hurts that they had 5 consecutive drives where they did not have a first down. I want to credit Bill Belichick and the defense. It is a really good defense. It was the number 1 fantasy scoring defense last year. They have some guys that can get after the quarterback. And Bill Belichick is, he's the GOAT, right? And you give this guy, what did he have? 2.5 months, 3 months to prepare for that game against Jalen Hurts. They did a really good job. Also, Philadelphia, new offensive coordinator in town, right? You saw some struggles. So Dallas Goedert involved. Maybe, they want to get Swift involved a little bit more. Growing pains. It's going to happen. New defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. It may take some time, but this is the matchup, right? To do it against Minnesota. And last year they struggled. And Jalen Hurts, I just gave you the Minnesota numbers. Jalen Hurts went off in that game. He threw for 331 passing yards. He only had the 1 touchdown, but he was 26 for 31. Miles Sanders had the 80 yards on the ground. Hurts had 57 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns on 11 carries. Goddard 5 for 82. Smith 7 for 80. A.J. Brown 5 for 69. I think that they will be more pass happy. especially if Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift are not really moving the chains. But there's a couple players that I want to bring to your attention today in terms of props. The first one I really want to bring to your attention is TJ Hawkinson. And TJ Hawkinson, we put it on Tuesday, over 4.5 grabs at minus 114. Now this number has changed. I mean, I see minus 192. It's like, why would you hang minus 192 for 4.5 grabs? Just move it to 5.5. So I got two numbers here for you. I got over 4.5 grabs at minus 145 and over 5.5 grabs at plus 120. Use the prop shop link inside the description of this video to get the best possible number. You guys know I've been on TJ Hawkinson all off season. I was on him in week 1, over 4.5 grabs. We had that one easily. He finished with 8 catches on 9 targets. Now, Hawkinson is being used differently in Minnesota than he was in Detroit. His short ADOT, I would not attack his receiving yard prop. He hardly had, I don't even know if he had 40 receiving yards last week, but he still ended up with those 9 targets and 8 grabs. There's a couple things here. So Hawkinson, I mean, just since he was acquired from Minnesota, he played the 10 regular season games. He had 86 targets and he had 60 catches. It's 6 catches per game. It's 6 point. Actually, it was like just 6 on the button. If you include the playoff game where he racked up 10 grabs on 11 targets against the Giants, and then last week he's just over 6. But last year, Travis Kelce led all tight ends with 6.4 catches, and he had 110 catches. So to pace that out, what Hawkinson did in that decent sample size of 10 games last year with Minnesota, on pace for 102 grabs, which is one more than he had in his sophomore season. So I don't feel like that's really an outlier. Like he could get to 100 grabs this year. I would not be shocked at all. All the attention's always on Justin Jefferson. And we know about Kirk Cousins, primetime, under the bright lights, tends to turn into a pumpkin. I don't know how much he's going to really target Justin Jefferson. And last week, I said this on the Sirius XM show. We'll be with you on Saturday. Hopefully, Hurricane Lee doesn't destroy Nova Scotia. We'll be with you on Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Myself, Jake Seeley, and Lauren Carpenter. Last week, I talked about Hunter Henry. We had a caller. This is not me tooting my own horn. We had a caller, and somebody asked Pat Freiermuth or Hunter Henry. I said Hunter Henry. I didn't think he would finish as tight end 1. I didn't think all the tight ends would just I say that tongue in cheek. I didn't think all the tight ends would be so bad, even though it is the tight end position. But we didn't have Kelce. We didn't have Mark Andrews. We had the donut from Dallas Goedert. Darren Waller was hurt, yada, yada. But the reason why I said Hunter Henry is because the Eagles are going to struggle in the middle of the field. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was great for them last year. He is gone. I think that they are going to struggle against running backs who can catch, and I think they're going to struggle against tight ends. The way to attack Philadelphia is in the middle of the field with those 2 lockdown corners. Now, again, no Bradbury. I really like Jordan Addison. We'll get to him in a minute. But Hunter Henry popped off last week, and we saw Zeke and Ramondre Stevenson combined for 11 catches in that game. So TJ Hawkinson here, if you want to drink a little bit of the juice, this is how I play things. Minus 145 is too much for me as a single bet. Put this in on Tuesday. You're subbed with us. You have the FTN bet tracker. You're notified right away. You see the picks. We talked about it earlier in the week. You jump on that early. Like I said, it is moved. We're not getting behind the minus 192. The way I would do the minus 145 would be in some sort of same game parlay, and I'll give you a couple other picks here. It would be like let's get too nuts here, maybe a 2-leg parlay with a player or two that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Or you take the 5.5, because I think that he can get to that 5.5. I mentioned Irv Smith. I think he can get to 6 grabs. I mentioned Irv Smith earlier, and he didn't do anything really at all in Minnesota over the few years. He had some highlight moments, right? Some cool dances in the end zone, but that game against Philadelphia, I remember everybody's like, all right, Irv Smith is here. It's breakout season. Unfortunately, he got hurt, but he did have the 5 catches. He had the touchdown. So I think this is a mismatch that I want to get after here today. So I'm starting here with TJ Hawkinson. I'll move over to Alexander Mattison. Alexander Mattison at I like his catch prop. I'll get to in a second, but at 13.5 receiving yards, again, prop shop. I see 15.5. I see 16.5. Why wouldn't we take the smaller number at 13.5? So I mentioned Zeke and Ramondre Stevenson in week 1 combined for 11 catches and over 70 receiving yards. Cook, 4 catches in this matchup last year. Madison as the backup, 3 catches in this matchup. Madison, 3 catches in the first week, right? Wasn't super efficient, but he did have the grabs. I think he only had 10 receiving yards. I think he had a receiving touchdown. Pretty confident in that. We have Madison in our projections for 2.2 catches on 3 targets and 16.8 receiving yards. I mentioned the struggles in the middle of the field, the 2 Patriot backs as well. So not only am I in on the 13.5 receiving yards for Madison, I'm also in on the over 2.5 catches at plus 100 over at DraftKings. For example, I know I may sound like a broken record and you're sick of me talking about the prop shop, but guys, it can save you a lot of time. It can save you a lot of money. You put in Alexander Madison here in terms of his receiving yards. I mentioned the 13.5 is already gone. It's now 14.5, the best I'm seeing at Bet365 at minus 110. I take anything over 15.5. Our projections have him for just over 16. I think he can get a couple catches here. If the Eagles are pushing the pace and scoring some points, then we'll see some checkdowns. We'll see some garbage time stuff. I think the offense will definitely be better in Philadelphia this week in a much better matchup, and that at home. And game number 2 with the new offensive coordinator here. So, but I see 14.5 all the way up to 17.5 for the receptions. I see 2.5 plus money. I also see 2.5 minus 150 over at BetMGM. So there's a big difference. That saves you a lot of money, right? And you don't have to be shopping around at all these books. I know if you're in the Toronto and Ontario area, you have multiple books available to you this year. So maybe you have 3 or 4 that you like. Instead of just moving all around, we got that prop shop to really help you out there. So Madison, again, I think Justin Jefferson's fine. We're not sitting Justin Jefferson. Would any of us be shocked if he had over 100 yards? No. I mean, we had him in the bet tracker last week over 87.5. He had 130 at halftime. So he is a cheat code, but Darius Slay is a stud. Saw this matchup last year, and I do worry about Kirk Cousins a little bit. So I think he'll target Hawkinson, and I think he'll target Alexander Madison out of the backfield. The Eagle that I'm in on is Jalen Hurts at over 45.5 rushing yards at minus 120. I believe that's over at PointsBet. I mentioned this matchup last year that he had the 2 rushing touchdowns and 57 rushing yards. He flirted with 40 rushing yards. He had the fumble in the last week. But like I said, right, I think this offense will flow a little bit more. No Kenneth Gainwell. So if Swift isn't a guy that they trust for 10 plus carries and he's not efficient running the ball, and Penny isn't a guy that, he's healthy and inactive, we could see Jalen Hurts kind of call his own number here. I'm not buying the Dallas Goedert 4.5 catch prop at plus money. I do think he will be involved. Heck, I wouldn't be shocked if the first play of the game is a Dallas Goedert. Like, these are how things work in the NFL. Goddard didn't say anything. There was a couple times where Dallas Goedert was completely wide open in the second half of that game, kind of like a little hand. I'm over here. Don't forget about me. And Hurts went to A.J. Brown. I would expect Dallas Goedert to be used, but these are the guys that I'm taking a look at. I would rather take Dallas Goedert for a touchdown here at plus 260. I think they can use him in the red zone. Of course, a lot of attention will be on AJ and Devontae Smith. Hawkinson in the red zone. Immediately when he was acquired last year from Detroit, Kevin O'Connell gave him a 21% target share. He immediately passed Adam Thielen in targets and end zone looks as well. He had just as many end zone targets in the last 5 weeks of last season as Justin Jefferson. I know, right? I mean, Jefferson is the guy inside the red zone, in the end zone. Kirk Cousins leans on him quite a bit. The Eagles do have a solid run defense, so Madison could struggle between the tackles here. I do think that Hawkinson is a good target for like a proper touchdown plus 255, and Dallas Goedert at plus 260. If I were to pick a second Eagle, it would be Jalen Hurts for a rushing touchdown, but I just have this feeling, as I said earlier, about Rashad Penny. I think he's going to get first and second down looks, and at plus 275, I really wish I put in the tracker yesterday when they announced Kenneth Gainwell out, because it was plus 350 for Rashad Penny. So do not be shocked. Hurts led all quarterbacks with 20 goal line carries last year. He converted 9 of them. If they get inside the 5, inside the 3, they do that quarterback sneak that's just unstoppable, like the rugby push. So it is more likely that Hurts would get that rushing touchdown, but I just got this feeling about Penny. As for Jordan Addison, over 39.5 receiving yards at minus 118. Didn't play a lot of snaps. He was playing behind KJ Osborne, and KJ Osborne was getting some looks as well. He did have a touchdown in his first NFL game. It was busted coverage there, but I just want to, again, Slay and Justin Jefferson. That's a big deal. Slay's a good corner. He's shut down some really good wide receivers. So Hawkinson, Madison, Addison, those are guys, and they all kind of rhyme. That's where I would go tonight. So just to recap: Hawkinson I don't think you need to drink the juice at minus 145. Maybe put that into a same game parlay here. I am in on the 5.5 at plus 120, averaging over 6 catches per game in his 13 games with the Minnesota Vikings. 9 targets, 8 grabs in week 1. Eagles struggle against tight ends. Hunter Henry in week 1. And then the running backs, Zeke and Stevenson racking up a bunch of catches against Philadelphia with some garbage time stuff coming back in the game. That all played into it as well. But Madison over 2.5 catches. I like the receiving yard prop for Madison more than the catch prop, but over 13.5, now 14.5. I'm fine with it. Jalen Hurts over 45.5 rushing yards. Jordan Addison over 39.5 receiving yards. Jot these down, George. You're going to be fine, buddy. We're going to get these tonight. And then the touchdowns. Dallas Goedert plus 260, Hawkinson plus 255. A little bit of a sprinkle, right? It does feel like a long shot play here. I do believe he's going to play. Well, let's get confirmation before we make that bet. I think he's going to suit up tonight. He was activated from the practice squad, plus 275 there. And yeah, just shine away from AJ and Devontae and Dallas Goedert. I know our guy, Josh Gross, who's super sharp, likes Dallas Goedert over 4.5 catches. I think it does play into the matchup and what Nick Sirianni said and the fact that he put up, the goose egg, the big donut last week. So he will get involved. I'm telling you, I think the first play of the game is to Dallas Goedert on the Philadelphia offensive side of things. If I were to pick between AJ and Devontae, it would be Devontae. I think Devontae is AJ yards and Devontae catches. That's how I always play those two. AJ's that big play guy. Devontae's kind of running some bubbles and, quick slants and getting the ball in his hands. And I really do feel like Jalen Hurts leans on him on the third down. Okay. I went off there. You guys got a lot of questions. So we'll get after some of these questions. John Reed, let's make some money. Let's do it. Hawkinson over 4.5 catches seems like a lock. Yeah, we don't want to throw out the L word, but John Reed, I'm with you, right? We really like Hawkinson on this show. I think that he's going to have over 100 grabs. I think he's going to finish as like tight end 2 or 3 on the year. Deesh in the house. We got Reed. We got Seth. As we mentioned, he's on his way to the link. Let's go. Welcome in. Seth, drink a beer for me. Drink 2. Drink 3. George wants you to drink one for him as well. Deesh Swift. Okay, so we're getting some start and sit here. Swift, I'm not starting. Kerwin, Warren, or wait for Joshua Kelly to see if Eckler is out. Yeah, you know what? I would wait. I would wait this out to see if Eckler is out. And if not, then you can roll with, Kerwin's in a really tough spot. But I would probably just wait it out for Kerwin Williams. I know people view me as the Swift hater, but last year he was a fade for me. You can count on one hand how many times this guy's had over 13 carries in a game. Like, this is a real opportunity for him. And he will get more touches because of what Sirianni said, and they didn't use him. But I just feel like Penny will be playing Gainwell's role first. It's a very risky play. I think he has the highest ceiling of the 3, but I believe it's a risky one. And yeah, I guess you're hoping Swift is an Eagles boy. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm hoping, but I hope for a lot of things that don't work out. What do we got here? I need my 8-leg maniac goal scorer parlays. We'll get into that. I think I answered some of these questions with the props. Troy in the house, the grade 8. Good morning, Clint and Chris. Welcome in. Some stuff going on with Babcock, eh, Troy? Buddy, I'll tell you what, you're not going to like Babcock in Columbus. You are not going to like him. George Pickens, Nico Collins, George Pickens, tough spot, Cleveland, but no Deontay Johnson, who's sidelined for the next few weeks. George Pickens, really liked what I saw from Nico Collins. Volume was there. The last 4 games of last season when they moved on from Brandon Cooks, he had 36 targets in those 4 games. Tough spot against Baltimore on the road for CJ Stroud. Much better spot at home against the Colts. You know what? I'm not saying to go pick up Robert Woods or start him, but I did see the rookie quarterback lean on Robert Woods, especially on third down situations. But I would go George Pickens here. Wheels up for George Pickens. He's our guy. We liked him over Deontay. We're not taking any victory laps. Injuries are something you can't predict. We hope Deontay comes back soon and healthy. But George Pickens was our guy. Highlight reel, catches all the time. I am in on Pickens having a nice breakout campaign in his sophomore season. Christian Watson, oh my goodness. Do you have any other options here, Lee? Christian Watson, I don't think we can trust. I feel like I've steered you guys in the wrong direction again with Christian Watson. He was my guy last year and multiple injuries to start his NFL career last year and already dealing with it. I don't have the practice reports. I know he didn't practice yesterday. Can we get some Christian Watson here? Did he practice today? Is he getting on the field? That would be important. Not seeing anything just yet. So I don't know if you guys see anything, you can let me know, but I'm not seeing it just yet. Maybe it's a little bit too early. Friday is the big day. Friday is the big day for Christian, for all practice reports. And we'll be here with you tomorrow, Lee. But I know you're saying Swift or Watson. I think you probably have to start Swift there. I don't know if you have any other options, right? Because those are the two that you gave me. One guy's playing tonight. The other guy hasn't been practicing. So you can't take a zero. Sky Moore and Mitchell out there a lot. Yeah. Elijah. Yeah, I'm not a big handcuff guy, but Elijah, if anything happens to CMC, we've seen a couple injuries over the past few years with CMC. Everybody would be rushing to the waiver wire. I think it's more important to have running back depth than wide receivers. You can pick up wide receivers all over the place. You can like Kendrick Bourne, all these guys that you could just pick up, right? Zay Jones wasn't even drafted. And Zay Jones had like 900 receiving yards last year. And everyone's grabbing Zay Jones on the waiver wire this week. He had the nice touchdown, great pitch and catch from Lawrence to Zay in the end zone. But Sky Moore, I would pick him up. I mean, he wasn't dropped in any of my leagues. I would scoop him up if I saw him, if you can afford him, of course, although context. But Elijah should probably be picked up too. It's just you're not going to start him. I would rather the Kerwin. I get it. If I was Elijah Mitchell owner, I don't have him anywhere. But if I had him, I would drop him for like those hot pickups this week in Kelly and Kerwin Williams or one of the Baltimore backs. I do think the Baltimore. I said it earlier in the week. I think it's trap. I think it's a complete trap. I think next week we're talking Melvin Gordon. What do we got here? Worth the stash Cordero. And let's say if Algier outscores Bijan again, would you worry a bit? I don't think Cordero Patterson is worth a stash. Man, this offense is just going to be pretty much what we saw last week. It's going to be Algier. It's going to be Bijan Robinson. I mean, nothing from Drake London, not even a catch from Drake London. Pitts was wide open all game long. But they want to run the football. It's Arthur Smith. No, I would not pick up Cordero Patterson. I just don't see where he's going to be involved and worth starts. And hey, I'm not taking any victory laps, but we told you guys not to draft Bijan Robinson 7th, 8th overall. It was a good first game, rookie. Good first game for Gibbs too. These guys are going to trend up, but Algier clearly is not going anywhere. He's a red zone touches, running the rock with him. Algier Bijan was catching passes to the backfield. He had a beautiful kind of shimmy there, and he had the receiving touchdown. But yeah, it would be worried. I mean, I would be worried. But you're always going to start Bijan Robinson, and eventually you feel like he will overtake, where it's like got to be 70-30 in favor of him. Just his first NFL game, but yeah, I mean there are reasons to be concerned. That's why I wasn't drafting him over like studs at the running back position. Seth, are there any tight ends on the waiver wire who might be better to pick up than Juwan Johnson going forward? Hunter Henry, I would have over Juwan Johnson. Moving forward, living in the moment right now at the tight end position, it's a very weak position. Juwan Johnson was good in that first game, but Olave, Shaheed, and Thomas, these guys are all healthy at the moment. So Juwan Johnson's like the fourth option, where Hunter Henry is the first or second option. I don't believe in Juju Smith-Schuster. I would drop that guy and TikTok boy in a heartbeat. But I mean, I'll show you the tight end projections because we actually don't have a board for the tight ends. And I want to show you the rest of the projections, which may help you guys with some of these start sit questions. Of course, I'm going to give my piece of advice and say, oh, well, our projections may be a little bit bullish on this guy as opposed to another guy. But I'll give you a sneak peek off the top of my head, Hunter Henry. I really like Hayden Hurst too. Like, not really, but I would play him over Okonkwo. Sam Laporta is probably already owned, but that guy's a lock, top 12 tight end the rest of the way for me. Kyle Pitts, man. If you have Kyle Pitts, I wouldn't drop him just yet. I'd be patient. I don't want to roster two tight ends. I don't suggest rostering two tight ends, but if you saw him on the waiver wire, I may pick him up depending on how your tight end room was. But I would over Juwan Johnson this week. I'm just looking at my rankings and guys that may be available. Laporta, probably not, but I did see him dropped in a couple leagues. I thought he had a good first game. Hunter Henry, Higbee. I'm not playing Dalton Schultz this week. He was out there running routes and playing a lot of snaps, but he's not 100% at the moment. He didn't do anything. I would play Luke Musgrave over Juwan Johnson, and I would play Hayden Hurst. We have Hayden Hurst, man, like 24th on our projections, but he was getting leaned on by Bryce Young. It wasn't Thielen. The offense did run through Miles Sanders. He had 6 targets, 4 grabs, but Hayden Hurst, rookie tight end or rookie quarterback. And I think it's smart by Frank Reich to kind of just make things easy for Bryce Young, whether that's, short yardage throws to Hayden Hurst or Miles Sanders out of the backfield. Mingo didn't do a whole lot. DJ Chark not healthy. I would play Hayden Hurst. I know the Saints are really good against tight ends, but I would play him over Juwan Johnson. Daily Handle in the house. What up? Welcome in. Thursday Night Football. LFG. Cousins can't handle the big stage, bright lights, and pressure on primetime. I agree. You're just missing a point emoji in there. Juwan in the house. Boston Scott is in all my lineups. Okay. Penny will get a hammy in the first half. Okay. All right. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't play Boston Scott. In season-long leagues? No chance. No chance I'm playing Boston Scott. Now, would I be shocked if Boston Scott had a better day than Swift and Penny? No, but what are we doing here? Come on. Let's not get too cute week 2. This Eagles backfield is going to be a mess all year. That's what we said, draft Gainwell late. Just do that. I mean, I don't know if you're talking DFS. You want to do a little DFS showdown Boston Scott in your life? Get behind that. I understand Penny's never, Penny could get hurt. I get it. Yeah. Everyone wants to hate, but come on. We're not going to play ball. We're not doing this, guys. We're not doing it. The chances of Boston Scott having the best game out of the running backs, I don't know, maybe it's 35%, but why are we taking that risk? We don't need to do that in week 2, in season long. We don't need to do that. Waited out Antonio Gibson. I don't know what you have there, Swift. I do have Swift ahead of Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson's not a drop for me. I was always Brian Robinson, team Brian Robinson. I think there will be games where Antonio Gibson is involved. He had the fumble in the red zone, which kind of put him in the doghouse. And the Washington coaching staff, Ron Rivera, has been taking shots at Antonio Gibson since he's been there, right? Calling him an east-south runner, wanting to be more north-south, and returning punts and practice and things like that. It's Brian Robinson's backfield. It's not every day we're going to see Washington 7-point favorites against a team, but they will be in situations where they're playing from behind. I don't think the Broncos are going to be able to push the pace against Washington. We definitely nailed that one. We had the Raiders to cover, and we liked them. We had them in our picks over at FTN. There will be games where they're playing from behind, and Antonio Gibson, maybe some catches there. I think people got excited about Bieniemy there and him kind of having a Jerick McKinnon role, but I would be patient on Gibson, but I don't think I'm playing him. I would really lean with Swift there. Okay, Joanne, you don't like Penny. Boston Scott is better than Penny. Penny's actually a really good back. He just hasn't been healthy. I mean, if you want to look at running backs in terms of efficiency and yards per carry and yards after the contact, I mean, Penny grades out as one of the better ones in the NFL over the past couple of years. Now he's playing behind one of the best offensive lines. We'll see how this does play out. Now this has me worried a bit on Swift, but I got to ride with him. I think that's the right call. Ride with him. He will get some more touches. Eagles, I think, could get to 21 points, 24 points. Should I trade my Nacua and Kelly for Godwin and McKinnon? Good question. Selling high on Puka Nacua. Yeah, Godwin's the best player in that move. McKinnon down week for McKinnon. Really like seeing Pacheco get some targets and some catches. We talked about that in the offseason, the uptick in the second half and into the playoffs. He had a 5-catch game against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, running routes in camp, catching passes in week 1. Love it. Wasn't super efficient on the ground, but man, Andy Reid knows how to utilize these running backs. But the best player in that deal is Godwin. I don't know what else is on your squad here. I assume Kelly is nothing. You just picked these waiver wire guys up, and their ceiling is not as high as what we saw. I think will be outlier games. Listen, I love Puka Nacua. Nacua, if you've been watching the show, you have shares. This is not, again, for me to run around victory lap stuff. Puka Nacua is a guy we've been talking about since May. We've been tweeting about him since May. Since the moment the Rams drafted this guy, we've been talking about him in best ball. We've been taking him as a late round pick. Now, did I say to start him last week? No chance. This guy was on my bench all over the place. He's a start this week. You play him. Week 1 may be the best game of the season for Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp will come back at some point. This is a tough spot against San Fran, but if you just picked up this guy and he's your 5th, 6th, 7th wide receiver, why not sell him? You sell high in the moment. Everybody's looking to get these guys. People are talking Kelly. People are talking Nacua. you make the move. You sell high at the moment. I like it. I dig it. Hey, that's where you're at. Best player in the deal is Godwin. I'd make the move. Should I trade? Okay, Nacua and Damian Harris for Godwin. Okay, some other comment. Just okay. It's happening again, George. It's a little sluggish here. Comments on my end, anyways. Nacua and Damian Harris for Godwin. You're a cup owner. Yes, absolutely. I'd make it. I like this one better. Do you need McKinnon? I don't think you need McKinnon. You don't need Damian Harris. I like this one a touch better for you. And then you keep Kelly because, man, this run game may be all right with LA. Everyone talked about Kellen Moore pushing the ball down the field. Didn't see it a whole lot. I think that was more Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator with the Dolphins, right? He's super smart, right? He was sitting back a little bit. So they ran the ball and they ran it well. Nico Collins matchup, Jordan Addison. I would go with Jordan Addison. Here in that one. Okay, you're giving us some context. You got Cooper, Watson, Hopkins, Flowers, Nakua Cup, RBs, Najee, Pacheco. So you got so you were looking to get both KC guys, Pacheco and Swift Kamara in there. I think you got a solid team here. Yeah, you can move on there and get Godwin. Godwin would probably just automatically be your number one. Flowers is a good one. You start 3. I'd make the move. Ty Chandler, have him on my bench. Any hopes? You know what? I did want to bring this up. I'm glad you did because Ty Chandler was a big guy for me as well. I was talked a lot about Ty Chandler. So we got to hold ourselves accountable here. Week 1, I hardly made any ads or drops. And this is not to say that I'm awesome, but Rashawn Johnson, Puka Nacua, we had these guys. Some guys that I did pick up, Kendrick Bourne, Kelly in spots. I faded the Baltimore backfield. Kerwin, I tried to get, couldn't get. Ty Chandler is the one guy that I talked about in the offseason that I've already cut in some spots. I didn't like what I saw in week 1. It was a lot of Madison, but it just was week 1. Now, you can't start him. I would start him this week, but if Madison has another game where he's not super efficient, and if the Eagles are up in this game by a couple scores, we may see what Ty Chandler has to offer. So if you can afford to keep him, sure, but those other running backs, those hot pickups like Kelly and Kerwin, these are guys that I would rather have. The Baltimore backfield, again, I do believe it's going to be a trap. I think Gus Edwards is going to be sprinkled in with Justice Hill. I think Melvin Gordon will be active this week, and Melvin Gordon is a good back. He's, of the 3, more suited for a bell cow role, right? I get it. Last year was a mess. A couple years ago, he was fine. He's still a good back. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He can pass protect. Still got Lamar running around. So you could move on from Ty if you want to with some of those guys that I mentioned, but I definitely wouldn't be starting him. Tony in the house, welcome in. Waddle, St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Ayuk, what 3 to play? So Amon-Ra, absolutely. I would go with the first 3 guys, and I know Ayuk had a really good game. It's tough to sit him after that game against the Rams. I like him as well, man. You got yourself 4 really good wide receivers, 4 top 25 wide receivers. I was team Ayuk over Deebo Samuel. I have him ranked ahead of Deebo again this week. Jeff Ratcliffe and our projections. Jeff is super sharp, and he's a lot sharper than I am. He has Deebo ahead of Brandon Ayuk, but I have a hard time. You know, Waddle, this decision may be easier for you because Waddle may not play. I know he's questionable. Tyreek Hill's not going to do what he did against New England and Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has a history of taking away the opposing team's best player, and he's going to do what he can here with Tyreek, and that will leave this could be a Waddle game. You're starting St. Brown. I would start Devontae too, and then you make the choice between Waddle and Ayuk, and I don't think you can go wrong, dude. Tony, I don't think you can go wrong. Right now, I am leaning first 3. I think the safest is probably St. Brown, Devontae, and Ayuk. Hunter air yards all day. Yeah, we get the free tool over at ftnfantasy.com. Air yards and target share and ADOT. I think it's a really cool tool to look at. Things that I will address on this show like early in the week to recap the week and to see what players. It's like a good DFS tool too. I like to see players that are targeted deep down the field. I have Kincaid at the moment. Would you drop him for Hunter Henry? I wouldn't. I would be patient there. I do have Hunter Henry ranked ahead of Kincaid this week, but I would be patient with that one. It's a rookie tight end. You spent, I don't know if you spent high capital on Kincaid, but let's just wait this out. The one thing is, it is the tight end position after all, right? Like, it's not like Hunter Henry, even though we finished his tight end 1, I think some of it was part of the matchup. 2, I think he will be the number 2 option. I'm not believing in Juju. Actually, you know what? The number one option is probably, it really probably is Kendrick Bourne, who doubled his touchdown total in one game. I don't want to overreact too much, but he looked good. Juju, I'm not believing in. Wasn't on the field a lot. I think the knee is a big deal for him. The injury there, reports that it's washed. Apparently, that's not from me. I saw that report. I think Ramondre is probably the guy. I mean, he was second on the team in targets last year. He's probably number two, and then Hunter Henry. But the tight end position is so weak. Like, let's just be patient with Kincaid for another game or two. Man, Josh Allen, right? Whew. Yikes. Nico Collins or Gabe Davis also have Mark Andrews, but Stash Musgrave was one. He was one wide open throw from being absolutely. Somebody just Twitter, man, you got to stay off of it. Why is people so sour all the time and just like it's so much hate in the world, right? It's like Penny. Like Penny's gonna pull at Aaron Rodgers. Like, come on, don't be that guy. I said that Musgrave would have been a decent play in deeper formats, like 14-team leagues, and everyone was just taking shots at me, but. He was on the field. He was catching passes. He did trip over his own feet, but at least he caught that pass. He almost had a touchdown. I would lean with Nico Collins there. Our projections probably have Gabe Davis a touch higher. It is a much better spot for Josh Allen at home against the Raiders. I think the ceiling is probably with Gabe Davis there, Kane, because he could catch a touchdown in this spot against the Raiders. But Nico Collins, I would expect to have more targets and more catches in a better spot against the Colts. I personally would probably play Nico Collins there. Mark Andrews, I think it sounds like he's going to play. I think he'd return to practice. So I don't think you need to stash a tight end. You got Andrews. If he's playing, you play him every week. You hope he's healthy. And I think they were just being cautious with him in a game that they knew they were going to win. And now they got a game on the road against the Bengals. I think they were looking ahead at that matchup. What do we have here? Adam, Eagles aren't playing the Giants. No reason to play Boston Scott. Thank you. You're a big Eagles guy, I do believe, right? I think you are. I know you like the Flyers. I know that. Gibbs for Dameon Pierce and Jordan Addison. This is a trade offer. I'm into it. Yeah. I think that Gibbs is a good buy low candidate, but I do believe that this is going to be a committee all year long. Now, having said that, we talked about Montgomery at the start of the season being the better draft day value, but Gibbs did look better than Montgomery. I think that Gibbs is a buy low candidate because we all saw him on primetime and we saw Montgomery get a bunch of carries and have the red zone touchdown. I believe that there's an opportunity to sell David Montgomery and there's an opportunity to buy Gibbs. Now, I don't want to confuse people because I just told you that I think it's going to be a timeshare all year long, but Gibbs looked so good. He definitely looked like the better back. There's a chance that he could potentially overtake the backfield. I think Montgomery is going to have more carries than him, and I think he's going to be the goal line back. But Gibbs catching passes, you saw the speed on full display. But I would make that move. There's an opportunity to buy low on Dameon Pierce in a tough spot against Baltimore, and they moved away from him. I still think the offense is going to run through him, and Jordan Addison's a player. So I would make that move, Jay Korn. I like that one for you. What are the best DSTs to start this week? Okay, we're going to do this. Defenses. I think Jeff and I are the only ones so far who have ranked defenses over at ftnfantasy.com. No, that's not true. We have Mike and Tyler in there as well. So I will read you my rankings at defense. And of course, the top few are already picked up. But let's see. What do we got here? I'll have to get the matchups too. Our matchups, we're working on having the matchups show in our FTN fantasy rankings. I really like that when the matchups show, just to kind of give you a sneak peek. I know everybody really knows them, but I think just seeing them on the page personally, it's something that I've requested. We'll see what happens. Dallas, of course, up at the top for me. San Fran, Buffalo, Philly. I like the Saints. The Saints were a defense that I drafted towards the end. I think they have the softest schedule in the NFL. Soft to start, right? First week, Tannehill looked awful. This week, they got Carolina, rookie quarterback. I like the Saints. I like the Broncos. The Giants. Maybe the Giants were dropped. It's possible. I don't know if anybody was really rolling with the Giants, but they do have a matchup against Arizona, so that's a good one. I got Washington next against Russ and the Broncos. I actually think the Commanders could go in and win. I kind of like them at 3.5. Plus 3.5. Russ, right? The Broncos are the worst offense in football last year. He didn't impress me at all in week one. Steelers, Browns, Bucks. Bucks may be a defense that's out there and available. Justin Fields, I know they're going to run, right? They threw the ball a ton last week. I don't know if that's a smart game plan for them. Yeah, garbage time, but let's be honest about the Bears. It's going to be garbage time all year long for this squad. The Jets are owned. Baltimore, I have higher than most. I just don't think Joe Burrow's right. I don't think he's ready to rock, man. He didn't look good last week. I want to credit the Browns, and he's typically a slow starter and dealing with injuries. It seems like every year he starts with an injury. But I think the Ravens are decent. Pats, even though it's Tua had a big game and Tyreek Hill. This Patriots defense is legit, man. It is for real. I would roll them out. So I think we got a couple there, like a couple streaming options for you guys, right? Like the Jets or the Giants are owned in. What's the ownership here on the Giants? Let's get some projections. This makes for really good TV and podcasting, doesn't it? What do we got here for so the Giants are 37% owned, so they could be available. The Bucks are 32% owned. Cleveland's only 55% owned. That's interesting. I like the Browns as well. The Saints are owned, and the Colts at 11%. I wouldn't go that way. In deeper leagues, it's okay. I'm not going to the Colts and the Texans. I think those are okay DFS plays, but I'm not going there. Washington at 46%. So I think we got a couple there for you guys. Oh wow, 46 minutes already. I still have like projections I want to share with you guys, but we'll hang out. People are hanging out. It's a big day. Let's just hang out. Let's have some pops. Cheers. It's nothing too crazy in here. This coffee, guys. Just coffee. Deesh. All right, we solved the RB2 dilemma. Swift, please. Now flex. Dotson or DJ Moore. I would go DJ Moore. I'm starting DJ Moore. I love Jake Seeley, but it's nice to listen to Chris Meaney without him being interrupted. Oh, wow. Shots fired. Shots fired. I like Jake too. And he does always apologize to me when he interrupts me. So it's all good. We do appreciate the support. I would rather trade Addy and Pierce for Josh Jacobs, not Gibbs. I would rather trade Addison and Pierce for Josh Jacobs and not Gibbs. Yes, I would agree with that. I like Josh Jacobs more than Gibbs the rest of the season. I like these 2-for-1s. Like sometimes, if you have a good bench, like it's important to have a good bench because you're going to get into injuries and bye weeks, right? Even if you start off slow here, like we'll get into week 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 with all these buys. And that's how you really will make up ground on the rest of your league mates by having a good bench. But there is something to be said about trading 2 or 3 for a stud. And that's what you're doing here. Like Addison and Pierce, I like those guys, but you're getting an RB1 in Josh Jacobs, who led the NFL in rushing yards last year. So yeah, I can get behind some things like that. Waiver wire start and sit. Fernando in the house, Kendrick Bourne or Rashid Shaheed, week 2. I like Rashid Shaheed. He was one of my sleeper plays, found the end zone in week 1, but I will go with Kendrick Bourne. I am a buyer. I am buying what I saw from him in week 1 against the Eagles. Parker. Who cares if Parker comes back, right? That's what Jake said. Devontae Parker come back. I don't care about Devontae Parker. Like this guy can't stay on the field. What are we doing? How good is Washington defense at the moment? I mean, I don't think it's top 10. I like the matchup against Denver. I mean, you could start them. I would start Giants. I would start the Giants over them, the Browns over them. Some defenses that you can pick up. I don't believe we'll see Jace Young this week. So they're okay. Like they're a top half defense. They're not as good as what, a couple years ago when they almost beat the Bucks in the first round. Like they look legit that year. Jake Horn in the house again. I'd be giving. Oh, sorry. I read that wrong. My bad. You're giving Pearson Addison for Gibbs. I don't know. Can you give me some context on the rest of your squad and get to that one in a little bit there, Jake Horn? I don't think I would do it. I think you're giving up too much. I like Gibbs. Like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm sure you're hanging out there with the backfields. It's going to be a timeshare between those two guys. I'm in on buying low, but I think you're giving up too much. I don't want to drop them now. Not sure what that is here. PPR start Garrett Wilson, Dotson, Addison, Dubs, or Nakua. You only start one of these guys? What's going on? You got a lot there. Garrett Wilson, I think you got to start. I do believe he is quarterback proof, man. What a bummer. What a bummer. I really I got so much Garrett Wilson. It is crazy pouring out, man. That hurricane is coming. We're going to continue here. I just heard some crazy thunder. If we lose you guys, my apologies. You can leave the questions you have in the comment section. I will get to them. I will always circle back on these videos and address your questions at Chris Meaney, Mean Streets, FTN gmail.com. I will always try to take care of you guys. I'm going to wrap up. There's only a couple more here, and I'm going to show the projections. Maybe this will help split some of these, but Garrett Wilson, I think, is matchup proof, quarterback proof. It's a massive, massive drop off from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson. I would rank those guys: Wilson, Dotson, Dubs, if no Watson, Nakua Addison. That's how I would rank them. I think you got to start Garrett Wilson, right? I mean, he did have the touchdown with Zach. I know I'm overreacting stage at the moment, but Amari Cooper is a bit concerning. Yeah, it was a first game was definitely concerning, right? He wasn't on the field a whole lot either, but first game, sloppy weather, right? It was rainy, windy in Cleveland, dog pound, divisional matchup. Let's see how he does. I don't expect him to be fantastic in this matchup either against Pittsburgh. So maybe bench him if you can. Ooh, great question. I would start Fields this week. I think just that rushing floor is still really, really nice. It is a better matchup. Tua had a great game. Really fun to see. I can't believe this guy is already the betting favorite to win the MVP. That's a sucker bet, guys. Don't do it, right? Do not do it. And Tyreek Hill is the MVP of that squad. A good first game for Tua. Bill Belichick in New England, Foxborough, second game in a row on the road. Big emotional win, come from behind win week 1. I think Tua is the top 12 quarterback this week, borderline, but I would go with Justin Fields there, sir. Random trade offers I got said, what do we got here? Olave for ETN. Then I'm gonna revisit that one. It's a lot to pack in. I want to show the projections. Here with you guys because I still see some people hanging out. So here's our projections. We're starting with quarterbacks. I think, moving forward, I'll probably avoid the top 12 because you guys know they're all studs. Start your studs and we'll dig in a little bit deeper. But we are showing you the top 25 quarterbacks here, top 24 rather. So Hurts, you're starting these guys every week, even though Allen threw 3 picks and 4 turnovers, right? You bounce back game, giddy up. Hurts, Jalen Hurt. I think I did that to you, George. Jalen Hurt, missing the S. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. That's all on me. I do this. It's all on me. Bats for me. Give me bats. I'm just like, come on, man. How can I mistype my guy? That's a surprise. I hadn't seen this one. Kyle Pitts with the Labatt. My goodness. So he's a Drake London. Missing. Where is he? Milk carton. Hey, what are you doing? Who, me? What? Hanging around, doing nothing. Unbelievable stuff there. I got to get back here to the quarterbacks. Where we do there? Okay. Herbert, Lamar. See the question with Fields, 19.4. We have 2 at 19.2. So a really good question, right? Both quarterbacks, are definitely startable. Joe Burrow and we have Anthony Richardson there. And, if last week you had any concerns about starting Anthony Richardson, I mean, I tweeted it. Who's starting Anthony Richardson? I had him as a top 10 quarterback. Everyone, what are you doing? Anthony can't start him. And now he's got the matchup against Houston, who is a team that really struggles with outzone runs, and they just struggle to stop the run regardless. So Anthony Richardson is going to lead this team in rushing touchdowns, right? Is this going to happen? I suppose maybe Jonathan Taylor could, but if Taylor misses half the season, Anthony Richardson will lead this team in rushing touchdowns. You just hope he tosses one, and then he gets to that 21, 22 point showing, which he did last week. Daniel Jones, you were afraid of Daniel Jones? It's Dallas, guys. Dallas, the Cowboys defense is legit. This Cowboys team may actually just get to the Super Bowl. They may be a pain in the Eagles and the Niners side this year. They may do it. George shaking his head, not going to get it done. But that defense is absolutely legit. Let's not overreact too much for the weather that was sloppy and Daniel Jones not getting it done. I will say the offensive line is not great in New York. You ever see that video of it's like the security? It's like the security guard's just like he's like 9 years old and he's just like tapping. He's just like, go ahead, you're it. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's like that was the Giants offense or offensive line is pathetic. But I would roll with Daniel Jones. I think a bounce back for him. I am concerned about Waller. I would trade this guy immediately. He's talking about the hamstring injury being the same injury as last year. Different. He says different, but same. It's like, that's just not what you want to hear. Jared Goff in there. Dome, home and away splits, right? Jared Goff was great at home, and Seattle's defense didn't look all that good in week 1. Geno Smith, I think, bounce back in a dome. I think he'll be much better. I think people are overreacting on Geno. I'm willing to take the loss if Geno doesn't. I don't think he's going to be as good as last year, but Geno was a guy that I was telling people you could wait and draft him. I would play him this week. Deshaun Watson, Good first game, ran like slow start for Deshaun Watson, had the rushing touchdown, had some design runs. We talked about, Cooper not being great. I think Elijah Moore didn't do him a favor. There was a drop there. Tough spot. That's why I have him at 14 in Pittsburgh. Believe in the defense. Divisional game. I think he's worthy of a start in deeper formats for sure. There's some other guys that would play over him. Brock Purdy, sound like a broken record, but what did Brock Purdy do last week? Oh, threw for 2 touchdowns, finished with 17 fantasy points. Again, this is a guy who averaged more fantasy points per game last year than Goff, then Cousins, then Trevor Lawrence, then Justin Herbert. It's time to start starting Brock Purdy. I get it. He may not have the ceiling as other quarterbacks, but all we've seen from him in 7 regular season games is a 7-0 record and 2 passing touchdowns in every single game. He's got so many weapons. Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, CMC out of the backfield, a great play caller in Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan is always going to put him into situations to succeed. He's never going to be a guy that throws the ball 45 times. He's going to be a guy that probably tosses 2 touchdowns. He's got some sneaky speed on the ground. Starting this guy. Dak Prescott was a fade for me in drafts. This is all about the matchup against the Jets. You saw what they did against Josh Allen. It's not all Josh Allen. Yeah, he made some piss poor decisions, but the Jets defense is good. So I'm shying away from Dak this week. Kirk Cousins, same deal. Tough spot on the road, under the bright lights, point emoji in Philadelphia at the link. Can't start Kirk. Can't start Russ. Jordan Love, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, I liked a lot last week. I had him inside the top 20. He wasn't fantastic. Did some okay things. He did hook up with Mike Evans and targeted Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, which is what you want to see. We're getting into super flex stuff here. I don't think you really want to start Sam Howell in Denver or even Ryan Tannehill for that matter. Let's get into the running backs. Again, I probably next week will just avoid the top 12. You're starting all of these guys. It doesn't really matter, does it? That Chubb is 2 and Eckler is 5. Eckler is 5 because we're wondering about him. If he plays, we're playing him with confidence. It is a tough spot against the Titans. This is one thing that they do really well on defense is stop the run. Saquon, I think, bounce back, although I do have some concerns about that leaky offensive line. Bijan Robinson, we still have here at 6, despite the usage and the touches for Tyler Algier. I think some catches there for Bijan Robinson puts him in this range for me. Tony Pollard, probably. Actually, my own rankings, I have Tony Pollard ahead. These are our projections over at FTN Fantasy. Again, we're just splitting hairs with some of these guys: Joe Mixon, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, and Ramondre Stevenson. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. We do have, so again, projections have Gibbs and Montgomery neck and neck. I have Montgomery ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. If this was a full point PPR league, I would have Gibbs 1 spot ahead of Montgomery. This is half point setting. I don't think you own both of these guys, but Montgomery over Gibbs, they're both startable. Aaron Jones, great first week. Sounds like he's going to be able to play this week against Atlanta. Seeing them catch some passes out of the backfield was nice. Rashad White, we'll get to him in a little bit. I know people are sour on him. He's getting dropped. I'm seeing some people say don't start him this week. I'm going to get into him in a little bit later. I got some start and sits for you guys, but these are our projections. Again, what I will say about Rashad White, we had the over 11.5 rushing attempts for Rashad White in week 1. We put a 2-unit play on that, and we got it pretty easily. In fact, he had 11 carries, I believe, in the first half. He finished with 17. He only had 39 rushing yards. He wasn't efficient, but this is a much better spot against Chicago. I guess you don't have to wait for the start and sit. I kind of just did it there for you. Miles Sanders, tough spot against the Saints, but the offense ran through him. He was second in opportunities last week. Second in opportunities. That's carries and targets. Look at right there. 24 opportunities for the old boy. We kind of viewed him as a bell cow back on this show, right? I think Jake Seeley was on my side. Lauren does not like herself. Miles Sanders. He wasn't super efficient. He has had some really good games against the Saints, believe it or not. I think he ended like a 4 or 5 year streak of them not allowing a 100-yard rusher a couple years ago. It was one of the first games with Jalen Hurts, and they both had over 100 rushing yards. But Miles Sanders, seeing the 6 targets and the 4 grabs, the most he's had in terms of targets since 2020. 50 catches as a rookie. So let's not forget that. Tough spot, but volume is king in fantasy, and I think that's very, very important. Excuse me. Alexander Madison, I have him ranked a little bit higher. than the projections here, but I think you're starting him. Again, not super efficient. You hope he catches a couple passes out of the backfield. James Conner, it's just going to be a start like every week. Like, oh my goodness, I'm starting James Conner. Do I want to start James Conner? Gross, ugly, but 14 for 62. He did have 5 catches on 5 targets, but he only had 8 receiving yards. It's just going to be a mess all year. You kind of do it and forget it. Clearly the guys behind him have a higher ceiling. James Cook, Dameon Pierce. I think Cook will. I liked what I saw from Cook. Didn't see a whole lot of that. Didn't see a whole lot of Damian Harris. James Cook, I think, will find the end zone this week against the Raiders. Dameon Pierce, better spot. Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams for the first game since October. That was the very first game. There was some talk about him being on a pitch count. 13 for 52. Pretty efficient there. Had 6 targets, 4 grabs. So nice. You like to see that. Nearly 20 opportunities for him, and what they said he would be on a snap count. So that's good. Najee Harris down here pretty low. I think Najee's there's an opportunity to buy Najee Harris. I know people like Jalen Warren, and there's a report 50-50. Tough spot. San Fran is as tough as it gets. Cleveland's not great either. So I expect another dud game. That's why he's low. I actually have him a little bit lower than this in my rankings. I would play Jamal Williams over him. Jamal Williams wasn't great last week. Tennessee Titans, good run defense. I think bounce back. If you played him in DFS, he was very chalky. I think you can go back to him as an underrated play this week. But Najee, I think there's a buy low window there. Okay, wide receivers. We'll go a little bit quicker here. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, all these guys, AJ, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley's pretty high. Actually, I have Calvin Ridley higher than Devontae Adams in my rankings. CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave. Lamb's down here a little bit. That plays into the Jets and Dak in the tough spot there. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, right? We're starting all of those guys. I think there was a question from somebody who had like all of those wide receivers. What are you playing in a 14-team league? Good luck making those decisions. We dig a little bit deeper here. Keenan Allen, great spot against the Titans. We saw Derek Carr throw all over them. I think this is the matchup where we see the Chargers push the ball down the field. Deebo Samuel is here. I like Ayuk more than Deebo Samuel. Again, the projections are 11.7, 11.3, right? We're really splitting hairs here, but I do have Ayuk ahead of Deebo. I was team Ayuk ahead of Deebo on draft day. DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins got a lot of targets. I don't have him this high. I would rather the Bucs wide receivers and Evans and Godwin there. I would actually go Hopkins over Mike Williams, although I do think Mike Williams will bounce back here. But Hopkins did get a lot of targets, but those passes from Ryan Tannehill were not great. But you know what? There was a lot of piss poor play at the quarterback position. A lot of offenses were awful in week 1. A lot of these teams not rolling out their starters, new offensive coordinators, quarterback with a new wide receiver. It may take some time for the chemistry, right? There was a couple misreads from Ryan Tannehill where he thought Hopkins was maybe like I think they were just misreading it. Like Hopkins, one play, it looked like Tannehill thought that Hopkins would come back, and he didn't. He kept going, and it was a pick. So again, next week, maybe we avoid RB1s, wide receiver ones. We dig a little bit deeper. Let's get to start and sits. These are players that I am starting this week. Some are obvious. Some had bad week 1s that I have no problem going back to week 2. Let's not overreact in week 1. Mention Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson got his first game out of the way. He had a rushing touchdown. He had a receiving yard touchdown. He ended up with 10 carries for 40 rushing yards. The Texans have been the worst team in the NFL over the last 2.5 years in stopping the run. Outside runs, down the middle. And we know that the running back room is not great without Jonathan Taylor. So Anthony Richardson should call his own number should they get inside the 5 again. Anthony Richardson's a top 10 quarterback this week. Daniel Jones, a top 12 quarterback. Let's not dive into too much of what we saw last week. Great defense in Dallas. It's not the same case in Arizona. Yeah, we're concerned about the offensive line in New York, but I think he'll do enough with his legs, and I think he'll toss a touchdown or 2 in this spot. Plus, Arizona's offense is brutal. Could get some turnovers there for the Giants defense. Rashad White, Miles Sanders. Let's talk about White again for a quick second. Last year was not efficient, right? He just wasn't. But he did catch 50 passes. There's no Leonard Fournette. I thought he'd be more used in the receiving game in week 1. Only 2 grabs on 2 targets for 10 receiving yards. But he had 17 carries, which is nice, right? This is a spot against Chicago, one of the worst rushing defenses as well over the past couple of years. So if you're going to give him 17 carries, I think he's going to be an RB2. He could catch a couple passes. Maybe it's only 2. Goal line work for him. Didn't really see that in the first game, but This game, I think that they should have more offensive possessions in the opposing team's territory. Have Sean Tucker on your radar. Pick him up in deeper leagues as a stash, but I think Rachaad White is a guy that you can play. Miles Sanders, again, right? This is a guy that was second in opportunities last week behind CMC. 6 targets, 4 grabs, caught 50 passes as a rookie. The offense running through Miles Sanders with a young quarterback and Bryce Young under center, I think that's going to continue. It is a tough spot, but if he can catch 4 or 5 passes and have 20 opportunities again, it's really hard to ignore. Jamal Williams, the Tennessee Titans defense, they just do a great job of stopping the run. I think most teams just know that and they throw all over them. I think Jamal Williams will have more carries this week, more efficient on the road against Carolina, better spot. Breece Hall over Dalvin Cook. I would not be starting Dalvin Cook. Breece Hall in limited touches definitely looked like the better back. He certainly lost a step, right? Breece Hall of last year would have took that, run to the house, but very efficient with his touches. First game, he's the guy here. I think they will lean on the ground game because of the injury to Aaron Rodgers. T. Higgins, let's not overreact here, right? He put up a big donut, but he's going to be fine. Let's not sell him. Let's buy low. Let's see if he could be had. Mike Williams, right? We talked about the Titans. He's a risky start because the injuries always seem to pop up for him, but I would go back to him. I think that this is going to be a much better game for Mike Williams. The Chargers offense was great, but I think they'll throw and have more success with Justin Herbert throwing the football. They did a good job of running it last week. DJ Moore, only 2 targets, and they came in the last few minutes of the first half, nothing in the second half. When those things happen, I'm sure they got to get to the drawing board and say, listen, this just cannot happen again. We got to get the ball to DJ Moore. He's not a wide receiver 2. He's more of a wide receiver 3, but I would start him. Puka Nacua, again, a guy that we liked a lot this year. We talked a lot about him in the offseason. We're not taking victory laps or patting ourselves on the back. We didn't start him last week. He had 15 targets, 10 grabs, and 119 yards. He's now 74% owned. He was 4% owned before last week. So everybody has Puka Nacua. You spent fab on him. You went to get him for a reason. You start him. You play him. He's a top 35 wide receiver for me. He's a wide receiver 3, a flex guy. He's a good route runner. Matthew Stafford leaned on him. Again, when we look at the end of the season, we may see that Puka Nacua's best game was just week 1. Week 1. That's it. Cooper Kupp will come back at some point. You could sell high if you want. If you already have wide receivers, you could sell high. No better time to move on from him after that first game, the very first game in the NFL. He has 10 catches, 15 targets, and 119 yards, right? There's only a handful of guys that have had that kind of showing in their first ever NFL game. So I understand selling high, making him available to your league mates. Like, that's just smart managing. But you can start him because I think he's a great route runner and Matthew Stafford has his trust. And I think that the Tutu Atwell game is the outlier game. And I'm not a big believer in Van Jefferson. Sam Laporta, I would start, like what I saw from him in week 1. Hunter Henry, I would start as well, like what I saw from him in week 1. Not a big believer in Juju Smith-Schuster. Here's players that I would sit this week. Dak Prescott, right? Just a good defense. Maybe it's a similar game like week 1. I think the Jets defense certainly a lot better than the Giants defense. So just with Dak, with the tough spot and maybe the turnovers, maybe the defense get a couple scores. Like, Dak wasn't a good start last week. How did we know, right? We didn't really know that game would play out that way, but it could be very similar, and there may not be a lot of pass attempts from Dak Prescott. Russell Wilson, need to see it, even in super flex leagues. I don't want to start this guy. Like, the offense was brutal last year. Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns, under 200 passing yards against the Raiders. Come on, I'm not starting this guy. And that shouldn't be Arizona. That should be Washington, which is a tougher matchup. Cam Akers, can't start him. I don't think you should drop him. In shallower leagues, you could drop him, but I don't think you should drop him just yet. It is encouraging to see that he had 22 carries. You like to see that. This is as tough as it gets. We talked about Najee Harris. I don't even think I would start Kerwin Williams this week. Tough spot, 22 carries, nice, only 29 yards, had the touchdown to kind of save your day. Maybe don't drop him yet, just be patient, but you definitely don't want to start him. Antonio Gibson, same sort of deal. Got to see this. I wouldn't drop him. If I owned him, I wouldn't drop him. PPR league, I would definitely keep him, hang on to him. I believe this is Brian Robinson's backfield. I think there are going to be games this season where Washington is, 7-point dogs, and it could be Antonio Gibson games in those scenarios. He may just be game script dependent. Deion Jackson, not doing it. Good spot too against the Texans. I'm just not doing it. I can't play this guy. Anthony Richardson is running. We like Richardson near the goal line. Deion Jackson last week, 13 carries for 14 yards. He did have 5 catches, but I'm not playing this guy, man. I'm not getting involved with Deion Jackson or anybody. Could see Zach Moss get in there. Just no thanks. Drake London, I don't want to drop him. I got him ranked in the 40s. I can't drop this guy. I don't own him anywhere. And again, this is not, oh, look at me. He was a bust. He was on the bust list. The reason he was on the bust list is because this is a run-first offense, and I don't trust Arthur Smith. Desmond Ridder had 1 catch last week. He's a quarterback. Drake London didn't have any catches. Now, will Drake London get involved here a little bit? He had 1 target. Sure, maybe. Arthur Smith said after, this is not fantasy football, but it's also the NFL, dude. Like, you drafted him in the first round. You drafted Kyle Pitts in the first round. Are you not interested at all in getting the ball to these guys? I don't know if they are. And I looked at the Falcons schedule, and it's not that tough. It's actually the second easiest schedule. So I don't know if they're going to get into situations where the pace will be pushed. And I'm sure Arthur Smith and Ridder are going to find a way to get the ball to Drake London, but I got to see it. And if he has a good game, go ahead, ship him. But he's up against Jair Alexander. Not playing him, not starting him. I wouldn't even start Kyle Pitts this week either. I would look elsewhere. Kirk wasn't on the field in wide receiver 2 sets. This is something we predicted. He was a fade for us as well. Zay Jones, I would play over Christian Kirk. High offensive game. We could see 55, 60 points in this game. Wouldn't be shocked. He could have a much better game, but man, what we saw from Calvin Ridley and the fact that he wasn't getting on the field in 2 wide receiver sets is concerning for me. Hollywood Brown not playing, Brendan Cooks not playing, Juju Smith-Schuster not playing. Concerns about all of these guys. Cooks, I think, will be okay. I think he'll have some decent games, but the tough defense with the Jets, and Juju Smith-Schuster only playing roughly 50% of the snaps. Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, and Ramondre Stevenson. I wouldn't even roster Juju Smith-Schuster. And then Hollywood Brown is just, it's the Arizona Cardinals. I don't really want to start anybody on this team. Dalton Schultz was out there, not getting a lot of looks, not a great first game. And those are 2 tight ends that I was really touting this in the offseason. So I would like to be patient with Okonkwo, but what can you do? You can't be taking zeros at the tight end position. If they're not getting any targets and not getting any looks, and you can't play them. I think that Schultz will have better games, but we can't be rolling him out again. Some tight ends that I would start over him. And as we get out of here, we are going to get out. We've gone super, super long, and I see that we're pretty choppy here. You probably see that, right, George? I think we went over the tight ends earlier. That Hayden Hurst, I would play over him. And I would probably play Luke Musgrave and the 2 rookies as well. Okay, there's more questions. We'll answer these questions, and then we will officially get out of here. Drop Lazard for Austin Slayton, MVS, 3 wide receivers, 3 flex. No. Man, I don't really want to start Lazard, but I don't want to start any of those other guys either. Maybe Austin. I'll probably just hang Lee. Pick one. JSN, Zay Jones, and Romeo Doubs. JSN in the slot was getting some looks. I don't know about the health of Tyler Lockett. If Lockett doesn't play, I would go with JSN, but Romeo Doubs. He didn't get a lot of look, but he's had some touchdowns, and it doesn't look like Christian Watson's going to be ready to go. Do you happen to know how serious the Brendan Cooks injury is? As of now, I'm benching him for Bourne. I don't know how serious it is. I was, as you saw on the board, he was already a sit for me regardless. I would play Kendrick Bourne. You got Brian Robinson on the bench. Okay. I would play Bourne regardless if Cook was active or not, Brendan Cooks. And I'll play Brian Robinson over Kendrick Bourne too. What do we got here? 10 full PPR. I'll be back tomorrow, guys, by the way. We'll have some practice reports. We'll answer some of these start sit questions. It's a touch early, but since you're here, let's do this. 10-man full PPR starting lineup: Lamar Jackson, Bijan, Chubb, Metcalf, Watson, Pierce, Addison, and Flowers on your bench. So Addison, Flowers on your bench. Watson, Christian, put him on your bench. Play Zay Flowers. Even if he suits up, this guy may not be full go. This may just be a headache all year again. I would play Zay Flowers over Watson, and it looks like you're good to go at the running back position. Addison's on your bench. Would you trade Aaron Jones for Gibbs? I would rather have Aaron Jones, and he was a fade for me. I'd rather have Aaron Jones than Gibbs. Richardson over Cousins. I don't know if you guys saw the projections. Richardson over Cousins. Tua over Goff. Tough spot on the road, Belichick, but really hard to ignore what he did. Would you trade for Purdy? I mean, I have Desmond Ritter plus wide receiver 2, maybe 1-on-1 for Geno. I would not want to start Desmond Ritter ever. So yeah, I would try to get Purdy. I like Geno ahead of Purdy, but I would try to do it. Maybe it's getting rid of something else, but that's a massive upgrade. If Ritter's your second quarterback, you're not going to win. He needs to be your third. He just doesn't throw the football. Is Jefferson start worthy? Is that Justin Jefferson, good sir? Yes. He's the best wide receiver in football. You start him regardless. I know we talked about Slay, and I don't mean to be too cute here or rude, but you always start Justin Jefferson. Every single week you start Justin Jefferson. Absolutely. I know it's Slay, but we're not getting involved with his props, but we're starting him with confidence. Ooh, Herbert, Rashawn Johnson, or Hopkins, half PPR. Man, I really liked what I saw from Rashawn Johnson. I'm team Rashawn Johnson. I know a lot of people like Herbert. Yeah, he's probably the better running back. And everything came in garbage time. Again, it's going to be garbage time all year long in Chicago. The fact that Rashawn Johnson was on the field catching passes, running people over, getting some red zone rushing attempts. But with that said, I would go with Hopkins. I think there's a higher ceiling. It's a committee at the moment with Justin Fields running as well. We hope that Deontay Foreman kind of goes away for a little bit, sits on the beach with the pina coladas, and we can see Rashawn Johnson get in there. But right now we're going Hopkins. Trade Nico for Gus in a half PPR if RB needy. No. The reason I'm saying no is just because I feel like the Baltimore backfield is a trap. I like Gus more than Justice Hill this week, but I think Melvin Gordon's going to be involved. They have a rookie running back on IR right now that I can't remember his name at the moment that I think will be involved. I think you can do better. And PPR, I mean, Gus is never going to catch any passes for you. So you need an RB, some RBs that I think you can buy low on. Rashad White, Najee Harris. I don't want Gibson. Bijan, you probably can't buy low on. You certainly couldn't get him for Nico. Francis, I'll be back tomorrow with maybe some more candidates, but I don't like that one for you, sir. Cooks is dealing with a grade 1 MCL sprain. Okay, easy fade then. And probably even a drop, to be honest with you. In a 10-team league, I would probably move on from Brendan Cooks. Can't be playing this. You just move on, Kendrick Bourne. South SCO 650 10-team half PPR, need one flex: Madison, Edwards, Pickens, Nico Collins, Dotson. I typically lean with the running backs in these situations because these are the guys that are going to touch the football the most. I would go with Madison. I would go with Alexander Madison. If you're not feeling it, it would be Pickens for me. And then you have another question here. 14 half point, need one flex and one tight end. DJ Moore, Elijah Moore, Dotson, Akers, Kerwin Williams, Cordero Patterson, Juwan Johnson. Oh my. I would go with Juwan Johnson. I did like seeing Ferguson get a lot of targets, and he was targeted early, but I would go with Juwan Johnson there. If you could pick up Hunter Henry, Sam Laporta, I would maybe even Luke Musgrave. I would go over those guys. I'm just taking a look at my tight end rankings. I think we did this earlier. But if that's what you're stuck with, then that's what you're stuck with. It's a 14-team league, so that's probably it for you. In fact, I would go Hayden Hurst over those two guys. He may be out there and available for you. As for the flex, I think I would go DJ Moore, man. Like, DJ Moore still has that ceiling. If you don't want to go DJ Moore and you're already sick of him, go Dotson. But it's Denver. It's Denver. I would go DJ Moore. I can't overthink it. You got to go DJ Moore. Lee, good show. Peace. Ritter is my third. Don't worry. Okay, you're good. Mahomes and Geno in charge. Yeah, see what you're fine. I think you're fine. Right? You can just roll those two quarterbacks out all year. You'll be all right. Okay, and then the Deesh, we'll wrap up with this one. Good sir. Got offered. Okay, so you got offered Olave for ETN or DK Robinson for, sometimes these are tough for me to wrap my head around, for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So your team is Henry, Kerwin, Swift, Warren, Kelly, A-Chain. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Olave, DJ Moore, and Dotson. So you're wondering if you should trade Olave for ETN or if you should trade, what's the DK Robinson for Amon-Ra? Not okay, so you're offered DK Robinson for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay, Henry's your RB1 and you're pretty thin after that. You don't really have a good RB2. Yeah, it's really tough to trade Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that's where I'm leaning. I liked what I saw from ETN in week 1. Tank Bigsby didn't get a whole lot of work, but he did get the red zone rushing attempt, which he thought he could get, which he converted for a touchdown. I would go with the DK and Brian Robinson. You definitely need an RB2 here. Kerwin and Swift and Warren, these are guys that I just don't think you're going to be able to play. Kelly, right? Flex in a pinch. A-Chain could be something for you. There. I would keep Olave. I'd go with that one. I don't know what you got going on here. I think I answered that question earlier. Was the Tua question, right? I think it was Fields versus Tua, potentially. I think we got to that one. I don't know if you missed it, but it was Fields over Tua. We're gonna get out of here. We went super long. It's like 2 hours. Okay. Good luck, guys, with all the picks. Start and sit stuff. We can dive into it a little bit deeper tomorrow. We'll have picks against the spread. We'll have props. We'll have some touchdowns. Again, Hawkinson over 4.5 grabs. You want to take the 5.5. I like the 5.5 as a single play. 4.5 in a parlay. Madison over 13.5 receiving yards, over 2.5 catches. We got Jalen Hurts over his rushing yard prop at 45.5. We have Jordan Addison over 39.5 touchdowns. I would go Goddard, Hawkinson, and a little small sprinkle on Rashad Penny. And by the way, deeper league, go pick up Rashad Penny. You just never know. You never know. Okay, it was Tua, Jones, Stevenson, Evans, Jefferson, Lamb, Browns, D. Elliott. Yeah, you're starting Jefferson. It's a decent little squad there. I would start Tua over Jones. And good luck. George, get me out of here, man. I don't even know if I can find it with the slugginess. You're there? You get me out of here? All right. Have a good one.